Well, when you stop working that, even though you've worked it and you've had an amazing experience, when you stop working this thing, you stop living by this way of life, my experience is I start to get sicker again. Without a drink and without a drug, I begin to get sicker again. And so what's really important for any family member to realize about their loved one who's suffering with this is there's no quick fix. You're not just going to wave a magic wand and they're going to be great for the rest of their lives. This requires some work. It requires the person who wants to get well to put in some effort, right? My experience was going through the steps was the effort that was required. Let me tell you a little bit about my relapse, because I think it's really important for us to kind of, we've all maybe experienced this where we have somebody we love and care about and we think they've turned the corner and it's going to be clear sailing from here, and then they have a reversal, right? And they're back to their old ways. And what happened for me was that I thought I was good. I got the job, I got the car, I had my daughter, I had a relationship. I had all the things that I wanted. And I thought I was good. I thought that now I can kind of let off on the gas. And I started to, coast. And as we all know, when you're coasting, you're going downhill, and that's what I was doing. Not realizing it, of course, right? And eventually the day came where I started to feel that feeling again, right? I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. I'm not living right. I'm not getting along with you anymore, right? The things that you say to me, they're now starting to get under my skin. And my experience is when you live with that for long enough, it begins to grind you to dust. And eventually, if you have this illness, your mind is going to go, it's going to say this. It's going to say, I know there's something that could make this go away, right? That's the nature of the illness. We're hardwired to destroy ourselves, right? Without a solution to that, I'm a goner. And so what happened was, you know the story. I eventually picked up the drink again, and it was the same. This is a funny one, because you've probably heard this. If you have a kid who's gotten sober, right? I had this thought in my mind, and the thought was, John, and it really, like I'm talking to myself, but it's not like a demon's voice, it's my voice. And I say to myself, John, like all that stuff that happened to you when you were drinking, you were just a kid. And you got sober, and you did the right thing, and you got a career, and you got a job, and you pay your bills, and you pay them on time, and you go to the store, and you go to work, and you do all the stuff that you could never do before. That you couldn't do back then, you could do it now. Maybe you can drink. Maybe. And that sounded like a really smart idea. Maybe I can. Maybe I got this thing. Maybe all that stuff was just me being a kid, and now I can drink like a normal person. And so that's what happened. I start drinking. See, the problem is, once I start, I can't stop. I've lost power, choice, and control. And for anybody in here who is a moderate drinker, it's just, you can't understand that. Because for you, it is a matter of choice. For you, you can stop when you want to stop. For the person who has this, we cannot stop. We take the drink takes us. I take the drug takes me. That's it. Power, choice, control, out the window. And you know what? I don't care how much I love you. I don't care how much you mean to me. I don't care, you could be the most important person to me. I will walk right through you to get what I need once I wake up that demon. That's what'll happen. And that's what happened. And so, this illness, it takes and takes and takes and destroys us. And I found myself in a place eventually where I just didn't think I can get any lower. I'm fantasizing about death, right? I would have these fantasies about, I'd be driving my car and I would be like, man, it would be so great if somebody could just go out of control and just hit me head on. Right? Or I'd get in the elevator and be like, man, it would be so great if that elevator cable could just snap. And I go crash into the ground. It would be fantastic. I like to watch science shows. And they would talk on the Science Channel. There would be these shows about, they called them extinction level events. Like when the meteor or the asteroid came and it wiped out the dinosaurs. And I'd be watching that and I'd be like, man, that would be fantastic if a meteor or an asteroid could come and just wipe us all out. And I'm sitting at the TV and I'm watching this and I'm fantasizing about something taking me out of this world because I'm too much of a coward to do it myself. right? And I don't want you to think that I'm brave, like, I'm not afraid of death. I'm just more afraid of living than I am of dying. But I'm afraid of dying too. Like, I'd like to die, I just don't want to be there when it happens. You know what I mean? Like, the way I use is like I'm dead for like 10 hours a day. That's just the way, and I get to come back every single night, every single morning I come back again. But that's what this is about for a person like me. That was my experience about eventually getting to the point of oblivion. I just don't want to know. I don't want the responsibility. I don't want to know. I don't want to be bothered. Leave me alone, please. And of course, at this point in my life, my family, I'm not talking to them. Not because I'm mad at them. I don't want them to know what's happened to me. I don't want them to know that at one point I was doing really well, and they saw me get well. And it broke my heart to have them know where I really was now, right? Because we were kind of separated by distance. And I'm in New York, and they're living in their respective homes, and they don't really know what's going on. And I wanted to keep it that way. Never ever thinking or considering how they must feel that I don't reach out to them, that I don't call them, that I don't talk to them. And I'm just not there. I'm a no-show, no-call. That's me. Eventually the day came when I finally realized what had to happen. And what I realized was the only time I'd ever been at peace, comfortable in my own skin, living a life that was worth living, was when I was in AA, sober. I knew it. I knew it, and it was like, I just kept waking up. Every day I'm waking up, and I can't die, and I'd like to just be gone, but I'm not. And eventually the day came where I said, I can't take this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to be okay. And I said, and this is a valuable lesson to anybody, whether you're in the rooms or not, and why this isn't about just self-knowledge. Because I had a lot of knowledge about my condition due to the fact I'd been in recovery for so long. Because see, here's the thing. I knew what I was suffering from, right? I understood that I was bodily and mentally different from normal people, normal drinkers, right? Bodily, it's about what happens to me when I start drinking, and it's also about what happens to me when I stop drinking. Once I start, I can't stop. Once I stop, I can't stay stopped. I saw this. I saw that it was the mind and the body at war with each other. And I also saw that I was spiritually ill. Like I said before, restless, irritable, and discontent. I knew that. I knew that about myself. I knew what the solution was. I knew the solution was spiritual in nature. And I knew where to find that solution in the rooms of AA. So I had all of this knowledge about what I could do about my situation. I understood it very well. But this is why this illness defies logic, information, and knowledge. Because even though I knew all those things, my impeccable alcoholic mind said to me, in a very nice voice, not a demonic voice at all, but very nicely, it said, "You're right. You are right. You are an alcoholic and a drug addict. You do need to go back to AA. You do. There's only one problem, one hitch. My friend Joe, who had been traveling around the world at that point, he was coming back to New York in December. And my mind said, Joe will be so disappointed if when he comes back, you're in AA, right? So what I decided to do was, okay, well, here's the solution. I am going to go back. I'm going to go back to AA, but I'm going to go back January 1st of 2007. Why January 1st? Because as you all know, January 1st is the first day of a new year. It's a clean slate. It seemed like really solid thinking. Like, that sounds like a really great plan. Start fresh from the first day of the year. And when did I come up with that plan? Around December 3rd, right? So between December 3rd and January 1st, I gave myself permission to get done, right? Now, some of you that don't suffer from this illness, this probably doesn't make any sense to you at all, right? But to somebody like me, it made complete sense. I'm going to come back January 1st. But here's the thing, and this is the thing about this illness. See, we think that we have power, choice, and control, even though we do not. We think we do. I thought I did. See, I thought I could say, I'm going to come back January 1st because I know that I can come back. So I think. What I never counted on was New Year's Eve, the last day of the year. In my mind, I'm thinking about tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow I got to do this thing. I got to do it. And there's fear because I don't have an off switch. I don't know how to just turn it off, right? And but I really do mean it. I really am going to go back to. That's really how I feel. And then the next thing, see, it was like the damnedest thing. The next thing I knew, I'm being resuscitated. I'm on the floor of my ex-girlfriend's apartment, and there's EMTs and paramedics and police officers, and I have no idea what they're doing there at all. I have no idea what happened. I just don't know. And they're asking me questions, and they tell me, listen, you're lucky you're alive. You swallowed your tongue. Your lips were blue. If she hadn't called us, you'd be dead. I had just finished telling her. The last thing I remember telling her was never call 911. So thank God she didn't listen to me. She never listened to me. So I'm astonished. And they take me and they put me in the stretcher, and they taking me downstairs, and they put me in the ambulance. They're taking me to the ER. And the whole time I'm going, all I could think about was that, but I was going to go to AA. I was going to go get sober. That's what I was going to do, right? That's really what I really meant that, like legit. I really meant that. And I was astonished by the fact that I just died. And I was given a second chance. And I used to hear in the rooms a lot of times, usually by an old timer, and they'd say something like this: if I go out and drink tonight, there's no guarantee I'll come back because I might die. And I always thought, you're so dramatic. You know, one more person, again, trying to scare me straight, right? And now I'm in the stretcher, and they're putting me in the ambulance, and I realize, I go, that's exactly what they were talking about all those years that I laughed at it. So the truth is, I am powerless. I don't know when this thing is going to kill me. Alcoholism and drug addiction is fatal, progressive, and incurable. I can't cure it. It's going to progress, and if I don't find a way to arrest it, it's going to kill me. And it was very clear to me in that moment what that meant. And that was the first step. And that was what I needed. I needed to get to that rock bottom point where I really saw this for what it was before I could move forward and really have this change in my life. And, you know, perception is an amazing thing because, see, at that point, that night, that was probably like the worst thing that could have happened to me. You know, I really felt that way. Like, this is awful. Look at what my life's become. Look at what a loser I am. I mean, I felt like the world's biggest loser at this point. And I look at that night now, and that's like one of the best nights of my life. It changed my life completely. And had I not had that, I couldn't get to where I am. You know, if you have a family member, I know it's hard to hear this, that they have to get to their bottom. There's no substitute for your last drink and your last drug. There's none. It has to happen. And it's heartbreaking to watch. And I see it with the guys that I work with in AA. I see it with the guys that I work with in our treatment center. Either you're done or you're not. I can't make you done. I can't wave a magic wand, and I wish I could. I wish there was something that could produce done. But done happens when done happens. And done happened for me. And that's what that is what happened. From that point forward, I was willing to do whatever it took to get well. Whatever that meant. At least I had the benefit of having years of AA previous, so I kind of had an idea what I was going to have to do. I found somebody that could help me, and I began going through the steps. And you know, the steps that I really can't go through everything tonight, but the one that I want to go through, I want to hit on briefly before I close up, because I think it's so pertinent to what you guys are doing here. All right, is steps 8 and 9. Right, steps 8 and 9 in Alcoholics Anonymous is we go through this process and we get to a point where we realize, we see the wreckage of the past that we've caused. And I saw it. I saw what I did. And then we take responsibility for it, and we try to clean it up to the best of our ability. And I want to tell you about the amends that I had to make with my father. I told you about him earlier. He went to prison when I was 9. And I had a lot of resentment in connection with that. Right? I'm 9 years old. Because he's a selfish idiot and he gets himself in trouble, I don't get to have a dad. And I carried that with me for a long time, what this guy did. I was mad. And then eventually, like in AA, and I did some work, and I started to soften. I started to see, you know what? Here was a guy that when he first had his first kid, he was 17 years old. By the time he was 21, he had 3 kids. He never finished school. All he knew was the street life. I started to see that, like, he did the best he could with what he had, right? It wasn't much, but that's what he did. And my heart started to soften. But what's more important, right, the amends that I want to tell you about is that during one of my drinking escapades in the late 90s, early 2000s, I had crashed a car. And now in order to fix that car, it was going to be like a lot of money that I didn't have. And I remember I was just resentful. I was so angry. And my father calls me up. He's still in prison at that time. And I tell him what happened. I'm telling him how upset I am, and this is BS, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, listen, do you need that money? I can give you that money. And I said, what are you talking about? You don't have that. You don't have that kind of money. He goes, I have money saved away. I can give you, if you want it, I can send it to you. And I go, okay, sure. Yeah, okay. So he goes, yeah, whenever you can, you pay me back. Like, that part, I conveniently forgot. The paying back part. Yeah, I'll pay you back. He sends the money, I get my car fixed, and I conveniently forget all about that situation that had ever happened. He gets out of prison, and one day he asked me, he goes, hey, do you think there's any chance I can get that money back? I'm down on my luck, I need to get the... And my first reaction was, how dare you ask me for that money? Are you kidding me? I don't have that. I mean, the least that you could have done is let me just have that. With what you did, this is what's going on in my head. And I'm not paying him. I've never paid him that money. I mean, that was my attitude. And I forgot about it. So now we get to like a few years ago. And I'm going through the steps again. And I get to 8 and 9. And I'm looking at my past again for the umpteenth time. And I'm looking at my dad. And I remember that. I remember that happened. And it was like this stone that just sunk in my stomach. I was like, oh my, I never paid him back. I never once paid him back. And I knew that I had to. I knew that I had to. Now, my dad had gotten sick. He had Parkinson's. And we had to put him in assisted living. And so one day I go there, and I have the conversation with him. And we're talking. I said, listen, you know what? I got to make this right. And he tells me, you don't have to do that. It's okay. And I said, no, I do. I have to do this. And if you're a family member and you ever have, one of your kids or one of your relatives come to you to make amends, let them make the amends. Let them do it. It's important. They need to do that. They need to be responsible for what they did. And so I said, I have to do it. And he said, all right. And so I started making this payment plan. Basically what I did was it was an automatic check that would go to him every month. But he didn't want it to go to him. He wanted it to go to my older sister because she kind of saved his money for him, right? So whatever. I do this automatic payment. I don't think about it anymore. My conscience is relieved. And, I feel better. The part of the story that's really the important part for me that I want you to know about is that last year my father, he was dying of the Parkinson's. It was the end for him. And I'm sitting in the room, and he's going. It's only a matter of hours. I don't know when he's going to go, but he's going. And I'm there. And I'm going over my relationship with him. Now, here's the thing. I never got to have the relationship I wanted with my father. Like I had this dream about, when he gets out of prison, we're going to have this great relationship, and we're going to be really close, and she'll be like this, and I'm going to be like that. And it just never really happened that way. It just didn't, It wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. It just didn't happen that way. And I'm sitting in his room, and he's dying. And I'm thinking, like, did I do enough? You know what I mean? Like, did I do enough? I don't know if I did enough. And I'm thinking about, everything that's happened. I'm thinking about, when he got out of prison, I was there with my brothers and sisters to get him out. And we went with him. And I remember when he got diagnosed with Parkinson's, I was there. And I remember when we had to put him in this assisted living because he needed 24/7 help. And having to go through that painful experience of taking him there. All of those things. And I started to see, like, I was there, and I was there, and I was there. See, I was the guy that was never there. I never showed up. I never did that. And now I'm there. And I'm sitting there, and I just get this feeling comes over me. And it was like, yeah, you know what? Like, I did what I had to do. I did everything I could to make that relationship right. And anybody in here, whatever relationships that you've had that have been harmed by this thing, right? The one thing you want to know is that you did everything to make that right. Right? There are so many things that are out of our control, but we want to know we did everything we could to make it right. And that came over me. And then here was the thing. So my father passes, and my brothers and and I'm in the room when it happens, and he goes. And now we're talking about his arrangements. And, I kind of just figured, the five of us, we would all chip in together to pay for his arrangements to, whatever, right? That's kind of what we're going to do. And we start to have that conversation. And my sister stops us. And she goes, we don't even have to don't worry, he has the money. I have it in his account. And I'm like, really? Like, how does he have money? Again, like that, what is that about? So I pull her aside and I go, let me ask you a question. The money that he has, is that the money that I was sending him over the past, however many months? And she goes, you know what? Yeah, that is the money. And you know what? That money, that amount, turned out to be almost to the dollar what we needed to pay for his arrangements. And when that happened, it was just like this feeling of like, yes, like I got it. There was this feeling of like, this program can do things for us that we could never, ever possibly imagine, right? When we really do this, when we really apply ourselves to this, and we do these spiritual exercises, things happen that we could never have foreseen. And that's been my experience over and over and over again with family members, with financial amends. There's these connections that start to be made for us that really bring us back to being connected, right? Because ultimately what this illness is about disconnection. I disconnect from you, I disconnect from a higher power, I disconnect from the world, right? And I live in isolation. And the sickness loves isolation, right? That's where it can have its way with us. And, the recovery process is about getting reconnected to everything again. Getting reconnected to our families, getting reconnected to society, getting reconnected to a power greater than ourselves, right? And being connected to ourselves. And so that's been my experience. And now, basically what I do for a living is, and when I started to get interested in doing this for a living, is when I got to the 12th step and I began to sponsor people and I began to help people. See, I was a guy that I was never interested in helping anybody. It was just not my deal, man. I don't want to help you. Don't ask me. Like, if I think you're going to help me, I'm out of here. I don't want to help you. Now, if you want to help me, that's great. You can help me all you want. Because, see, I'm a taker. I'm not a giver. All my life, that's what I've been. I've been a taker, not a giver. And this program is about taking people who were takers and transforming them into givers. And how does that happen? Like, it happens through the steps. And I start sponsoring people, and I start seeing the lights come on in people's lives. I start seeing people getting reconnected with their families again. And man, it just did something for me. Like, I just knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people in any way, shape, or form, right? And so that's what we do at BlueCrest. We're an IOP. It's obviously clinical, but we strongly believe in 12-step recovery. We strongly believe in the big book. We strongly believe in the process of the steps. That's really where healing happens. You come to our facility, we only have you for a limited amount of time. We want to set you up for success when you get out there. And what has been the most successful that we've seen? 12-step recovery. So we are constantly trying to get people connected with that. I also do interventions. The idea of an intervention is really, it's interesting. Most people think it's about the alcoholic or the drug addict, but really the intervention is about the family, right? The family needs to get well too. And that's what we try to do. We try to help the alcoholic, the addict, and the family. And then the last thing, the thing that brought me to getting involved in that work program was that I was one of the lucky ones. The night I was reversed, the night I OD'd, and they did an Narcan reversal on me, there was nobody to meet me in the hospital. But I didn't need somebody because I knew where to go. But I know that there are a lot of people out there that they have no idea where to go. And so the idea that there's a program where I can go to the guy who just was reversed and I can tell him about, hey man, there's options. Like, you don't have to live your life like this. Come check this out. That's an amazing gift to me. And so those programs, if you hear about them, if you're able to support them in some way, shape, or form, please do. It's needed. As you all know, we are in the middle of an epidemic. A lot of people are dying, and together, when we come together, we're stronger, right? right? And we need to get connected. We need to be empowered. We need to get information, and we need to reach out to each other. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to come to speak to you today, and thank you, Mark.